Russia's threats to use nuclear weapons, Kursk operation limits Russian maneuvers in Pokrovsk direction, and how terrorist offensive in Sumy direction disrupted the latest news from Ukraine and around the world. On the night of September 9, 2024, Russian forces launched another drone and missile attack on Ukraine. Air defense systems were active in the Kyiv, Cherkasy, Sumy and Dnipropetrovsk regions, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Russians used 3 guided aviation missiles, Ha-59, 69 and 8 Shahed-type attack drones for the attack. The missiles and UAVs were launched from the airspace over Russia's Kursk region and the occupied territories of Donetsk. As a result of the air defense battle, Ukrainian air defense forces shot down 2 guided missiles, Ha-59, 69 and 6 Shahed attack drones. 2 other drones were lost over Ukrainian territory, likely due to electronic warfare measures. One of the Ha-59, 69 missiles failed to reach its targets due to active air defense countermeasures. The Kyiv City Military Administration reported on the night's air defense operations. Enemy drones approached Kyiv after midnight in several waves. The air raid alarm lasted for over an hour. However, it is currently known that the capital did not suffer any damage during the night attack, and no casualties have been reported. Yesterday, on September 8, there were 164 combat engagements recorded on the front lines, according to the General Staff of Ukraine. The most intense fighting occurred in the Pokrovsk and Kurakhove directions. Ukrainian Defense Forces, aviation, rocket troops and artillery delivered 11 strikes on enemy personnel and equipment locations. Ukrainian defenders also destroyed 2 Russian artillery systems and 1 air defense asset. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that he discussed some details of Ukrainians' victory plan with the U.S. congressional delegation in Italy. The plan will be presented to U.S. President Joe Biden and presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, reported by President Zelenskyy evening address on 8th of September. Quote from Zelenskyy: "On the sidelines of the Ambrosity Forum in Italy, I met with the delegation of the U.S. Congress. We talked in particular about the victory plan for Ukraine, about some of its details, and we will present all the steps to U.S. President Biden and both presidential candidates, Trump and Harris, in full. Our main focus now at the beginning of the fall is to strengthen the positions of Ukraine and Ukrainians as much as possible, protect our cities and villages from Russian terror, and of course provide more capabilities for our warriors on the front lines." About details, Zelenskyy also said that Ukraine is really counting on the outcomes of the upcoming conversation with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. He added that negotiations with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni are also important for Ukraine. Experts from the Institute for the Study of War have analyzed the statements made by U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Director William Burns regarding Russia's threats to use nuclear weapons, reported by ISW. About details, CIA Director William Burns has urged the West not to be overly concerned by the frequent nuclear threats coming from Russia, which ISW has long identified as part of Kremlin strategy aimed to discourage investment and support for Ukraine. During a panel discussion with United Kingdom Secret Intelligence Service Chief Richard Moore on the 7th of September, Burns noted that Russian leader terrorist Vladimir Putin will likely continue to make periodic threats of direct confrontation with the West, but emphasized that this should not be a cause for alarm. Burns also revealed that the CIA had assessed the possibility of Russian forces considering the use of tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine in the autumn of 2022, during which he communicated with Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service Director Sergei Naryshkin. This assessment came at a time when Russia's nuclear rhetoric intensified as Ukraine's counter-offensive operations in Kherson and Kharkiv regions were successful. However, Burns suggested that this rhetoric was more likely a routine part of an information campaign designed to deter Western military aid to Ukraine rather than an actual indication of Russia's readiness to use nuclear weapons. The Kremlin has consistently used valid nuclear threats during critical moments in Western political debates about further military support for Ukraine, as seen in the autumn of 2022. Nevertheless, ISW maintained that the likelihood of Russia resorting to nuclear weapons in Ukraine or elsewhere remains extremely low. Ukraine is doing everything possible to prevent the loss of Pokrovsk. The Kursk operation has effectively deprived Russia of the ability to maneuver its forces, according to Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Oleksandr SYRSKYI. In response to a journalist's question about whether the Kursk operation diverted Russian forces from the Pokrovsk front and whether Ukraine might lose Pokrovsk, General Oleksandr SYRSKYI stated that over the past 6 days the enemy has made no territorial gains, indicating that Ukraine's strategy is working. He emphasized that every effort is being made to ensure Pokrovsk remains secure, with defensive fortifications being strengthened. SYRSKYI said, "Of course, the enemy has concentrated the most trained of its units in the Pokrovsk sector, but we have deprived him of the ability to maneuver his units and the ability to redeploy his strengthening units from other areas." The Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces noted that while Russia has not redeployed many troops from the Pokrovsk area, except for one Marine brigade, the enemy can no longer maneuver its reserves as it did previously. This weakening is also being felt on other fronts. According to SYRSKYI, the number of artillery shellings and the intensity of offensive actions have decreased. He concluded, "In fact, the Pokrovsk direction remains the most problematic for us. In other areas, the situation has become more stable. So I think this strategy was chosen correctly and it will bring us the desired result." Following Russia's offensive in the Kharkiv region, the enemy planned to advance towards Sumy. However, a series of factors, including a Ukrainian military operation in the Kursk region, disrupted their plans, according to Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Oleksandr SYRSKYI. On May 10, 2024, Russian forces launched their second assault in the Kharkiv region during their full-scale invasion. Just days later, they aimed to move forward into the Sumy region, using Kursk as a staging ground for further actions against Ukraine and its armed forces. However, after suffering losses in the Kharkiv direction, the Russian troops became effectively stalled in their advance, transitioning to a defensive position in Vovchansk. They also came to a standstill in the areas around Gliboke and Liptsi. Ukrainian General Oleksandr SYRSKYI noted that the Russian forces deployed for the assault on Kharkiv were insufficient. Subsequently, the enemy began to gradually relocate units stationed near Kursk toward the Sumy direction. As a result, the planned Russian offensive against the Sumy region did not materialize. Nonetheless, Moscow continued to view this area as a potential launching point for further operations. SYRSKYI stated, "In addition, they continued to shell our settlements daily, which caused us to suffer losses, primarily among the civilian population. This lasted until May, and in May there was a significant intensification. It was already clear then that this delay was temporary." The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine emphasized that this direction had always posed a threat to Ukraine. Therefore, after assessing their capabilities, the Ukrainian forces targeted the weakest point in the enemy's defense. This reduced the threat of an enemy offensive. We prevented them from acting. We moved the fight into the enemy's territory so that he could feel what we feel every day, the Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief emphasized. According to SYRSKYI, the Ukrainian operation resulted in the creation of a security zone in the Kursk area. Ukrainian forces also took a substantial number of prisoners. We created an exchange fund in order to release our military personnel who are in captivity, added the Commander-in-Chief. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.